So Jeff, I want to talk about this younger generation that is just now coming into kind of home ownership, right? And what their mindset might be. We talk a lot about mindset. You talk a lot about mindset. And you have, how old are your boys?
27, 23, and 19.
Right? So you've got 3 good loans coming.
Yeah. Right.
So, one thing that we've been talking about is we say buy a house, build your equity, right? But a lot of these kids have, been listening to their parents through the crash, right? They were born, they've lived through what happened in 2008. Maybe their parents' house lost a lot of equity. Maybe they're now at this pivotal part in their life where they're looking at, am I going to rent or am I going to buy? Especially when their dad does mortgages, right? And they're like, well, gosh, these people that just bought, aren't they kind of losing equity? Maybe their house isn't as high priced as it was. So what's your thought, and what are you hearing from your boys about that whole thing about equity and home ownership means equity?
Yeah. Well, good news is I actually did a loan for, my team did, I didn't do it personally, but my team did for my older son.
Nice.
And when we did it, rates had just started to go up. And when I looked at it compared to, a year before when they were 3%, I looked and I was like, man, am I giving them the right advice here? I mean, I'm the mortgage guy, right? And today, he hugs me because of the interest rate that he got, because we didn't wait, right?
So what did he get? Can you say?
I think we locked him in at the time at 5.5%.
Okay, yeah, that's a good rate.
But the year before it was 3.5, right?
Right.
So I was like, oh man, I gotta help you to pull the trigger on this thing. And I did, and it was, let's say 3 years ago, I think it was, and now the equity position is awesome. Just did a deal. I've done deals for some of his buddies and stuff like that too. And I make a statement. It was, even clients, whether they're young people or not young people or first-time home buyers, is now a good time to buy. And I say to them, look, if you buy a house today for $300,000 and you sell it a year from now or 2 years from now for $325,000, then it was a good time to buy. You made money.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the value is in the deal, right? And you just have to make sure that you're buying right. The interest rate conversation, you can have it. You just, you said earlier your crystal ball broke in 2008. You just don't have the crystal ball.
Yeah.
So can you afford the home? And is it, I talked to a young lady, we did a deal for, I did her first home a few years ago. Now she got married. They're buying another home. And the conversation similar, but they sold a home. She had a boatload of equity, right? And now they're buying their new home. And she used that equity to parlay into the next. And even this home, she said to me, I said to her, well, here's where we're at. And how are you looking at it? She goes, well, I'm not looking at it as my forever home. It's not perfect. It's got everything we need. It's where we want it to be
right now.
But we know our lives, because they're young.
Yeah.
We know our lives are going to include kids. They're gonna change. We both have jobs that could potentially change our life a little bit. And you know what? This is not our forever. I look at it in 5-year chunks, and I was like, that's amazing.
Right.
For a person at your age, and she was
very
30 years
insightful.
old. Just say 30, right? And I think she's younger. And at the end of the day, I'm like, that's beautiful, because now you're buying a home that if you bought it right, you'll improve the equity position. The interest rate wasn't 2020 interest rates, but it was a rate that was really good, solid today. And she was able to put a lot of money down because of the equity she picked up from the home she bought 3 or 4 years ago.
No, that's awesome. And one thing that I don't think people ever look at, right, because they're so focused on what is the rate today? What rate am I going to get? Well, if you're renting, that rate's 100%.
Right.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
So if it's 7, if it's 6, it's a lot less than 100, right?
Sure.
So the ball's in your court, though, and I know that renting offers a lot of flexibility, this and that, but honestly, in most markets around Atlanta, you're not going to be stuck. If life changes, if you get that job in Texas or New York or whatever, you're going to be able to get out of the house in a reasonable amount of time, right? Maybe you'll have the great fortune of being able to hang on to it and rent it out, right? And grow that rental portfolio. But either way, whether the rate's an 1/8 lower tomorrow or half a point lower tomorrow or next week or whatever, it's probably not enough to keep paying that 100% rate on renting.
Agreed.
Right?
And again, especially if You buy it today for 300, you sell it 12 months for 320. I
Right?
mean, do your research, find what areas work best, leverage your realtor that knows these are the areas, these are where homes are selling more quickly, here's where you can get more value. You know, here's where we see appreciation. And
Yeah.
that information is
Consult
all
the
out there.
experts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and every area is different. I mean, Cobb County is different than Gwinnett. Gwinnett's different than Henry. Henry's different than, you know,
Oh, and
Clayton.
pockets.
Yeah, it
The
is.
pockets within those counties, right?
Are all
It's
part
so
of it.
important
Yeah,
to
and
get
I'm talking your
somebody.
game, right? And I'm talking your game now. So you've
Yeah.
got to understand I
Yeah.
would say the pockets
You do. I mean, it's,
and what
you
your
know,
goals are.
bring a team of experts around you, get that guidance, get the right information, because a lot of things that you find online are really geared toward, you know, one size fits all across the nation, and real estate's local, right?
Yeah.
We've heard that
Yeah.
our whole lives. So consult the experts. Jeff's one of them. Follow him online for more information.
See it.